the mailbox like this every day. What's happening?
We're leaving now. Please, calm down.
On a blistering July afternoon in the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, Indiana, the sun scorched the tidy lawns of Elmwood Drive. Ellen Harper, a 32-year-old single mother, adjusted her sun visor as she pulled her aging Toyota Corolla up to the community mailboxes. In the back seat, her 4-year-old son, Liam, fiddled with a toy fire truck, his face lit with the kind of innocent joy only a child could muster on such a sweltering day. Ellen smiled at him through the rearview mirror, unaware that this routine errand was about to spiral into a nightmare that would shake their small town to its core. Across the street, Margaret Voss, the 55-year-old president of the Willow Creek Homeowners Association, watched from her pristine front porch. Her eyes narrowed as she sipped iced tea, her perfectly manicured nails tapping rhythmically on the glass. Margaret was the kind of woman who thrived on control. Her colonial-style home was a neighborhood showpiece, her roses award-winning, and her patience for perceived infractions razor-thin. For months, she'd been tracking Ellen's Tuesday mail runs, her irritation growing with each minute Ellen's car lingered by the mailboxes. To Margaret, those minutes were an affront to the community's carefully curated order. Today, Margaret decided, was the day to put an end to Ellen's carelessness. What began as a petty dispute over parking would ignite a chain of events that would destroy Margaret's carefully constructed world and unite a community in a fight for justice. Ellen stepped out of her car, leaving the engine running to keep the air conditioning on for Liam. The mailboxes, a cluster of metal boxes under a small awning, were a shared space for the neighborhood's residents. There were no signs prohibiting parking, no lines marking reserved spots, just an unspoken understanding that people came and went quickly. Ellen sorted through her mail, a utility bill, a coupon flyer, and a postcard from her sister in Ohio. It took less than 2 minutes, but to Margaret, it was an eternity. "Excuse me." Margaret's voice sliced through the humid air, sharp and commanding. She stormed across the street, her sensible loafers clicking on the pavement, her face flushed beneath her immaculate makeup. "You can't park there." Ellen turned, startled. She'd seen Margaret at HOA meetings, always presiding with an air of superiority, but they'd never spoken directly. "I'm sorry," Ellen said, her tone polite but puzzled. That's not a parking space," Margaret snapped, pointing at Ellen's car with a trembling finger. "You're violating HOA Regulation 3.1.9, which prohibits loitering in communal areas. I've been watching you do this for weeks." Ellen glanced at Liam, who was now peering out the window, his toy fire truck forgotten. His small face showed confusion at the raised voices. "I'm just grabbing my mail," Ellen said calmly, holding up her envelopes. "I'll move right now if it's an issue." "Oh no, you don't get to just walk away," Margaret said, her voice rising to a near-hysterical pitch. Neighbors began to emerge. Mrs. Thompson with her gardening gloves, Mr. Callahan pausing, his hedge trimmer drawn by the commotion. "You've been flouting the rules since you moved here," Margaret continued, her words laced with venom. "You think you can do whatever you want because you're new?" The accusation carried a sting Ellen couldn't ignore, a subtle jab at her status as a single mother who'd moved to Willow Creek after a messy divorce. She felt her cheeks burn, but kept her composure for Liam's sake. "I don't want trouble," she said, stepping toward her car. "I'm moving now." Margaret wasn't done. "Don't you dare walk away from me," she shouted, following Ellen to the car. As Ellen reached for the driver's door, Margaret's rage boiled over. In a shocking display of spite, she slammed the door shut and, with a glint of malice in her eyes, used her house key to scratch and jam each of the 4 door locks. "There," she said, stepping back with a triumphant smirk. "Now maybe you'll learn to respect the rules." Ellen's heart stopped. Liam was trapped inside, and the temperature was pushing 95 degrees Fahrenheit. "Open the doors," she screamed, her voice cracking with panic as she tugged at the handles. "My son is in there. He could die." "You should have thought of _that_ before you broke the rules," Margaret replied, her tone icy. Inside the car, Liam's confusion turned to fear. "Mommy," he cried, his voice muffled by the glass. Ellen's hands shook as she tried each door, her desperation mounting stick. "Please, someone help." Ellen screamed to the growing crowd. "My son's locked in the car." Mr. Callahan dropped his trimmer and sprinted to his shed for tools, while Mrs. Thompson dialed 911, her voice trembling as she explained the situation. The neighbors closed in, their shock turning to outrage. "What's wrong with you?" shouted Tom Reynolds, a father of 3 who lived down the street. "That's a child in there." Mrs. Thompson's voice shook as she relayed the emergency to the dispatcher. "It's 95 degrees out here. That boy could die." Margaret's confidence wavered as the crowd turned hostile. "I was teaching her a lesson," she said, but her voice lacked its earlier conviction. Inside the car, Liam's cries grew weaker, his small body glistening with sweat. Ellen pressed her hands against the window, whispering, "It's okay. Baby, we're getting you out." Mr. Callahan returned with a crowbar, working feverishly to pry open a door. Dr. Elaine Peterson, a retired pediatrician from 2 blocks over, rushed to the scene, warning, "Kids overheat fast. We've got minutes, not hours." Neighbors brought water, ice packs, and blankets, ready to help Liam the moment they could reach him. Sirens wailed as police, firefighters, and paramedics arrived. Fire Captain Daniel Brooks took charge, his team using specialized tools to pop the locks in under 2 minutes. Ellen yanked the door open and pulled Liam into her arms, his body dangerously warm, his eyes half closed. Paramedics swarmed in, applying ice packs and wet cloths. "His temperature's 102.5, one paramedic said grimly. "We need to get him to the hospital now." As Liam was loaded into an ambulance, Ellen glanced back at Margaret, who stood pale and silent as Officer Rachel Nguyen cuffed her. "You're under arrest for child endangerment, reckless endangerment, assault, and property damage," Nguyen said, her voice firm. Margaret's protest, "I didn't mean for this," was cut off as she was led to a squad car. At St. Mary's Hospital, doctors worked urgently to lower Liam's temperature, which had spiked to 103.2 degrees Fahrenheit. He was minutes from heat stroke, Dr. Alan Foster told Ellen and her mother, who'd driven from Cincinnati. "Another 10 minutes, and we'd be talking brain damage or worse." Ellen sat by Liam's bedside all night, whispering apologies as he drifted in and out of sleep. By morning, Willow Creek was ablaze with outrage. Tom Reynolds started a group chat to coordinate support for the Harpers, raising $6,000 for medical bills and car repairs within hours. Neighbors documented every detail of the incident, and security footage from Mr. Callahan's porch camera captured Margaret's actions in stark clarity. The story broke on Channel 5 News that evening. A Willow Creek HOA president allegedly trapped a 4-year-old in a sweltering car, anchor Lisa Carter reported, warning viewers about the disturbing footage. The video, showing Margaret's deliberate sabotage and Liam's terrified cries, went viral. The hashtag Justice for Liam trended nationwide, with tweets like, "This is pure evil. She needs to pay for endangering a child." Margaret's employer, Elite Properties, faced a flood of calls demanding her firing. "Her actions are indefensible," CEO Mark Sullivan said in a press conference. Margaret Voss is terminated, effective immediately. The company scrambled to reassign her clients, distancing itself from the scandal. District Attorney Laura Kim took the case personally, vowing to prosecute fully. "This was a malicious act against a vulnerable child," she said at a packed press conference. Margaret faced charges of first-degree child endangerment, assault, property damage, and reckless endangerment. Her bail was set at $120,000, which she couldn't pay without her real estate income. Her mug shot disheveled and defeated became a media staple. Margaret's husband, David, returned from a business trip to find their home swarmed by reporters and protesters. "I'm horrified," he told the press, his voice heavy with shame. "This isn't the woman I married." He filed for divorce within days, taking their teenage daughter, Sophie, with him. "I can't stay with someone who'd hurt a child," he told his sister. Sophie, now in college, cut all contact, telling friends her mother was gone rather than explain her actions. The Willow Creek HOA held an emergency meeting, voting unanimously 72-0 to oust Margaret. Neighbors filed restraining orders, and parents circulated warnings about the dangerous woman. A civil lawsuit followed, citing Margaret's actions for tarnishing the neighborhood's reputation and lowering property values. Buyers backed out of home purchases, unwilling to live in that HOA woman's neighborhood. Liam recovered physically but struggled emotionally. Nightmares of being trapped haunted him, and he clung to Ellen, wary of strangers. Therapy with Dr. Susan Grant helped, but the costs piled up. The community stepped up, with local businesses donating toys to replace Liam's heat-damaged fire truck and a bakery raising $4,000 for his therapy. Cards and gifts poured in from across the country, including a custom storybook about a brave boy overcoming fear, dedicated to Liam. 6 weeks later, Margaret's trial began in a packed courthouse. D.A. Kim's case was airtight. Security footage, medical records, and neighbor testimonies painted a damning picture. Dr. Foster testified that Liam's 103.2 degrees Fahrenheit temperature was minutes from permanent damage or death. Mrs. Thompson's emotional testimony sealed Margaret's fate. She said, "Good, maybe this'll teach them," as that boy screamed. She enjoyed it. Margaret's public defender, Michael Torres, argued she acted impulsively, but witnesses like neighbor Karen Walsh testified to her long history of bullying. "She once reported my son's lemonade stand for unpermitted commerce," Walsh said. "This wasn't a one-off. It's who she is." When Margaret took the stand, her arrogance was gone. "I didn't mean to hurt him," she mumbled, blaming stress and Ellen's disrespect. D.A. Kim dismantled her. "You targeted a child to feel powerful. That's not stress, that's cruelty." The jury deliberated for 80 minutes, returning guilty verdicts on all counts. Judge Emily Carter, a mother of two, showed no leniency. "Your actions were not just criminal, they were monstrous," she said at sentencing. "You've shown no remorse, no understanding of the harm you caused. You're a danger to society." Margaret received 6 years in prison, 12 years of probation, $80,000 in damages to the Harpers, 1,200 hours of community service with child welfare groups, and mandatory counseling. Margaret's life unraveled completely. Her social circle book club, golf buddies, church choir shunned her. Her sister, Linda, cut contact, saying, "You hurt a child, Margaret. I can't forgive that." Her home was foreclosed, bought by a young couple with triplets who were warmly welcomed by the neighborhood. In prison, Margaret faced hostility from inmates, many of them mothers, and spent most days in isolation. Liam, now 5, made slow but steady progress. Therapy eased his fears, though car rides still required extra hugs. "He's a fighter," Dr. Grant said. "With love and support, he'll be okay." Ellen, once timid, became a fierce advocate, taking over as HOA president and enacting rules to prevent future abuses. She spoke at rallies, wrote a memoir, and volunteered with child safety groups. The incident sparked Liam's law, mandating HOA background checks, limiting enforcement powers, and stiffening penalties for child endangerment. Liam, now thriving in kindergarten, became the face of a national safety campaign, his smile gracing billboards with the slogan, "Every child deserves safety." 3 years later, Margaret saw Liam's campaign ad on the prison TV. For the first time, she wept, grasping the wreckage of her life. No family, no career, no home, no future. Her 5-minute power trip had cost her everything. Ellen watched Liam chase fireflies in their backyard, now surrounded by friends who'd become family. "Margaret tried to break us," she said, "but she made Willow Creek stronger." Her cruelty showed us what matters: protecting our kids. The community's love had turned tragedy into triumph, proving that even in the darkest moments, good people could light the way.